This is where I found a lot of inspiration and optimism because there's this concept of job crafting. And I studied this in general because for a long time I studied like people's job satisfaction and loving their job. And we know from plenty of research that the more people have the ability to kind of tinker with their tasks, and design the process of accomplishing their goals according to their abilities and their preferences, the better the outcomes are for the company and for the person. And so this is really just a category that everyone, again, I think can benefit from. But what we saw with the people we interviewed in terms of job crafting that I hadn't really thought about before was how much they were aware of their energy levels and their capability at any given moment. I mean, and maybe this is something you do as well, but I was amazed how often like people talked about like daily, even hourly checking in with themselves to see where they are. And so they take that information and given the ability to make choices, they will flip around what they do based on that hour's energy level. And so, this is something that, again, to me, if managers understood more, I think they would realize the value for everybody in doing this. But it might be that in the morning is, the time when this person has low energy. Often people said they really don't start too early in the morning. And, so maybe that's when they do the administrative stuff, right? And then don't schedule a bunch of meetings with them, like first thing at 8 a.m. You may not get the best. And so I think that was like a really great example of how people giving them some control had a huge benefit. They'd get all the stuff done in a given week. It just might be in the order that the manager had originally intended or thought, or maybe, a very different sync than the other teammates who were working on similar things.
It's so funny. Yes. So I call it pace, place, space. And it is essential. All of us would like this, to be honest.
Yes.
But for a lot of us, we only function well when we have the ability to manipulate the pace at which we work, right? Mm-hmm. Some of us are crammers. Some of us like to chunk things. I know that at 4 p.m., I simply cannot work until 7 p.m. It's not happening. Some of us are space people, right? Fluorescent lights drain us, right? Ludmila Preslova, our colleague, has talked about how she turned down jobs that she really wanted and would have been great at because she was expected to be in a big office with tons of fluorescent lights and stimulation. So place is super important at, noise, stimulation, am I home, am I at work? And then space. And space, I think, is really underestimated. Space comes to autonomy. Is my manager going to be in my business? Am I in a very rigid system where I am expected to follow protocol a certain way? Like when you think of stories of how Silicon Valley was, 10 years ago, where developers basically could work at 3 a.m. if they wanted to, no one cared. And no one would bother them if they met their goals. So the space in which I am able to do my work as a grown-up is really important.
I love that. First of all, I'm definitely gonna quote you on that in the future. Yeah. That's a great framework. But the last part too about the space, it's so funny. It just reminds me of so many people we talked to at some point in the conversation said the equivalent of, I hate rules.
I hate rules.
They said, this is the thing with people with bipolar disorder. We hate rules, and of course there was variance, no one person is exactly alike the other, but yeah, I think that's right. And again, like even as you and I talk about that, this is threatening for a manager who really wants everybody to do things the same way and follow the protocols.
Yep. Yeah.
So there's a trust that has to be built that says, yeah, this person, may not do things exactly as per protocol. You of course want to set some, you don't want to cross ethical lines and so forth. But a lot of these rules are just based on sort of averaging what the average person would do and how much time it would take or how they do, really nonsense rules in my opinion. So the idea is, can we loosen that grip on the way we do things and just focus more on the outcomes we're trying to achieve together?
100%. And it works both ways. So a common example is if you work at a firm where you have to log your time, right? So they can bill a client. So a lot of people that I, and myself included, are allergic to that, right? I'm not responsible for telling you what I'm doing, blah, 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 right? Well, yeah, okay, cool. But this is how the firm makes money. It has to tell the client Maura worked 3 hours. So it's a give and take, right? I may be allergic to it, but it's work. I have to be a big girl and log my time, right? So I think it's also important to remember that we also understand that we're in systems too and compromise as well.